In October, this incredibly strong, talented, and badass woman, Frannie Klein, released a new song titled Before I've Flown Away. I spent quite some time with Frannie a few years back when I produced the Indigenous Music Countdown for NCI, and she was the show's host. We spent hours locked in a room together. However, we were both unaware, at least consciously, of the pain and hopelessness we both felt at the time. Until this conversation about Frannie's new song. I'm MJ, and this is Frannie Klein. Well, I'm very excited to be chatting with you, Frannie, because I'm also very proud of you. I'm very proud of you. Absolutely.
You.
Because
I wanted to share it with my NCI family first. I was just like, these guys deserve it first, I think.
Well, and we have been waiting for it for a long time, Frannie. I know personally I've been bugging you and going, when are you going to put out a song?
I know. It's been 8 years too long.
Yeah. So this is a great moment, and to be able to chat with you about it, and it was absolutely necessary to do that. Have you had a single on?
Never.
What?
This is my first single I've ever released. Yeah, like, this is what I'm saying. Like, I've recorded music, and I've been in the studio, and I've done all those fun things. But I have the songs sitting there, MJ, but I just am too chicken to release them. So I don't, and I sit on them, and I now have these tracks, and I'm like, what the heck am I waiting for? Yeah.
Here's what I want to know, and you've already kind of touched on it by saying you were chicken. What do you mean? We've seen you live a bunch of times. You've got this incredible stage presence. You have a beautiful voice. You're very welcome. So what makes you a chicken?
Well, the thing is like, and this is not a bash at anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Let me start out by saying that. But music right now, a lot of the times, you're not even writing the songs. You know, the songs that you hear, not all of them are even these people, writing them.
Right.
And I really wanted to make sure that the music that I put out, I've always been a big fan of classic country music, and I've always been a big fan of storytelling, and I just really wanted to make sure that was in there when I did release my first song, but also that the lyrics that I came up with were something that was so true and so honest that I couldn't hide from it. And a big thing with this song that I wanted to release first was because it deals with a lot of mental health stuff, which is part of the reason why I didn't even release music. And so it kind of just all tied in together, and this was kind of my stepping stone to be like, you know what, Fran? Kick in the butt, like, let's go. And, I've had friends tell me, like, oh my God, you tell me, like, all these people have been like, what the heck are you doing? So I just kind of buckled up, and so I was like, you know what? I think I'm ready.
So getting into the song, and I have to say, I've worked with you sort of behind the scenes,
right.
As the producer of the Indigenous Music Countdown. And
right.
So I got to know you quite a bit during that time. And here's what's fascinating, and why I really want to touch on a couple of things you said, but going back to being, apprehensive and not sure if you'd fit in, or knowing you wouldn't fit in, but kind of going, this is for me. What's interesting about you saying that it's taken you in the last couple of years to really get into that headspace is knowing you, Frannie. You are 100%, if I were to describe who you are from my perspective, it's that you are this badass, I don't care what anyone thinks of me kind of person, right? Like, and so that's why it's fascinating to me to hear you say, only in the last couple of years, did I really feel like, especially with my music, that like,
Well, and that goes with the whole mental health thing, though. Like, I'm super open about that now. It was something that I really tried to hide before and kind of just escaped from and didn't believe was really real. And so that was kind of the first thing. And back in the day when I was working at NCI, I was not my best self. I was, and I know you and I were close enough that you can tell when something was up, and I know I did touch on things and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I just was battling with myself, I think, more than anyone else. And
hardest battle there is. Yeah.
Well, and music has been that for me. Music, before Flown Away, like, there was a time I could not sing that on stage also because of how much it meant to me and the story that it tells. And so, but until I was able to do that, I was not able to release it. So I was just like, you know what? I got to battle these demons. And now I'm making better choices. I am going to therapy. I'm on medication. And I've done all the things, and I just, somebody told me, they go, I can't remember who it was, but they said, it was an elder from back home, and they said, Ikwet, which is what they call me back home, which means lady. And Ikwet, why, when you break your leg, where do you go? I said, to the hospital. Well, how come you go to the hospital? I said, well, because you need them to fix me. He goes, what's different than your brain? And that really was just kind of like, duh. Why couldn't I think of that? And it took somebody with a lot of knowledge and for me to respect that person too, I think, to kind of channel what I needed to do. And so I went, at one point I took myself to the hospital. I said, I need help. And I did the things, and I'm still doing the things, and there's slip-ups here and there. And there was also, I was an addict for a while that nobody knew about. And so I was also living this double life, And so this song, for me, releasing it now is only because I'm done doing those things that I feel like I'm able to tell that story.
So before I've flown away, what does that mean? What does that mean, before I've flown away?
So there was a term I always heard a lot when I was a kid. Whenever, I grew up on a ranch. My brother and I used to say, if a cow or a calf died, they've flown away now. They've passed away. We didn't really like talking blunt terms, which is, I think, part of the reason why I am the way I am today, and I'm able to be honest now, is because I wasn't before, and I would kind of trick myself into thinking things were a lot nicer than what they were, and death being one of them, and there was that song, Before Flown Away, was not even supposed to be a song. It was just my diary. I'm a journaler. I've been journaling every day religiously since I was 14, and it's how I've been able to find out a lot about myself. So I highly recommend it to anybody. If you're searching for what you can't figure out, write it down, and you'd be surprised.
Agreed. I do the same thing.
Yes, it works so good, right?
It does. Yep.
And so I had borrowed my cousin JR's guitar. He's a great singer from back home in Ebb and Flow. And I said, hey, cuz, can I borrow your guitar? And I was living on the reserve at the time. I was in Ebb and Flow. I was sick. I had all sorts of issues going on. I had just left NCI, all these things. And I went to the house that I grew up in. Now, the house that I grew up in, nobody lives there anymore. Parents divorced, or in the middle of a nasty divorce, blah, 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 that whole spiel. And I just didn't want to live anymore. So I thought I would go to the one place where nobody would find me. And I wrote this song out, and then I had the guitar, and I was like, man, maybe I can write to this. And I couldn't figure out anything on the guitar. I was like, never mind. And then I started feeling sorry for myself again, and actually tried to take my own life. And when I failed, I picked up that guitar and held on to it like it was my life. And I just came up with that song, and forever I couldn't even show my band. I had to record it and send it to them because I couldn't even get through singing it. So it's this huge part of me being able to talk about mental health now. It's me being able to admit that I have mental health issues and problems, and that probably most people do, and in not being ignorant to that fact. And so now I try to help out anywhere I can with anybody who's dealing with mental health. And I post about it religiously because I'm just like, you know what? I get it now. And so I feel so bad, and I apologize to anyone who I've ever made feel bad for having mental health issues, because, man, once you live it, you're like, holy crap.
What do you think is the foundation of your mental health challenges?
Well, I didn't realize it at the time, but as I grew into relationships, with my partners and just friendships and with family, I realized that I was not treating them the way that they were treating me, and part of me really wanted to find out where that came from. And I was like, why am I being so crappy to all these people? This person just told me they loved me, and I'm ready to go out and cheat on them. What makes me that? Why do I think that way? And so it took me a long time, and it's still taking me time. And I realized there was a lot of trauma for me as a child. I did not grow up the white picket fence. I grew up on the ranch and the reserve, and back and forth. That was just not a good life for me. And though I tried to make those memories the best that they were, I could only see the bad, the black thing. And so I resented a lot of people for those things, but still had relationships with them. And even though they hurt me and put me in situations as a child where I could get hurt. So it took me realizing that, going to my stepfather saying, I don't want you in my life anymore. Him telling me to change my last name from Klein, my adopted name, back to Desjardins, me not doing it, and releasing a song about mental health. These are all songs that I'm just, now it's like, this is my addiction. Releasing music is my addiction, because I feel, I'm getting these stories from people telling me like, oh my God, like, is this what I think it's about? And I said, you bet. Like, tell me what you think it's about, and I'll tell you. And we get there, and they open up about their problems, and it makes me feel amazing to know that this story can help, like, as anyone else, even if it's one person, you know? It's part of my healing process, right?
It is part of your personal healing process, which, yes, that's, that is the key takeaway from this. So before I've flown away, wow. And so you said you've got another single coming out already, and I'm guessing that, I mean, especially if you journal, I'm guessing that you have so many more thoughts that you want to put to a melody as well. So what can we expect from the Frannie Klein, who is working on herself so triumphantly right now? What can we expect?
So, as you've mentioned before, I'm kind of just, when you meet me, I'm kind of in your face. Like, it's taking me also a minute to realize that, but I'm like, hey! And I don't want you to walk away. You better give me a hug, or I'm going to come grab you.
Yeah.
Like, so when you meet me and stuff, it's so funny. I always think of the Robin Williams story. Happiest man on earth, but was so sad he couldn't live here anymore. And before my life turned to that, I was like, I am going to just see what I got in store here. And so I dug up. I loved the sassy songs. Like, I love Loretta Lynn, and I love her style, and she's the queen in my life.
Nice.
So I've always really idolized her. And so the next song that we got coming out is kind of like my Loretta tune. It's kind of like an in your face, get the hell out of here sort of deal. And I think I'm going to release the next two are going to be quite upbeat, give you guys a chance to stop crying. And
no problem with I have no problem with crying, girl. Hit me with the tears anytime, because it's just as therapeutic, I would say, as laughter. Yeah.
Well, I see, and that was another thing, is I grew up thinking like, man, I was told when I was a child, don't come home unless you have only red ribbons, or don't come home. I was the best in sports. And it's so, and it took me dissecting my journal to be like, Frannie, you're always expecting the best version of yourself all the time. Like, you're allowed to be human. And so, in being human, I'm also very honest, and that sometimes gets me in trouble. But I just want the next couple songs that I released to tell nothing but the truth. And that's what I think all I plan to do is just tell the honest truth from now on, because I don't think I was really doing that before.